Story 1. Am I the asshole for telling my mom she was the naive one who expected her husband's son to magically change? I, 22M, was born deaf and was never a candidate for hearing aids. I was taught ASL and my mom and others in my family learned ASL too. This is the only way I could ever speak or be spoken to. I don't lip read or anything like that. My dad wasn't in my life ever. And when I was 9 my mom started dating Tom. Tom had a 10-year-old son, Cole, at the time. It was pretty clear from the start that Cole was unenthusiastic about us and had no interest in learning ASL to speak to me. Tom and Mom decided we should all take family ASL classes and learn together in a fun environment, which the classes they found were. Cole had to be dragged and he didn't take part willingly or eagerly. If anything, he'd intentionally do things wrong and make himself do worse than he would have naturally, so he was asked less. He did eventually take them seriously. My mom believed it was because he had really bonded with me and now gave a crap about communicating with me. But that wasn't it. He had a new kid in school he wanted to talk to who was also deaf. The new guy was his motivation for learning. Cole and I never talked enough for him to be motivated to learn, and he made lots of mistakes when talking to me, but I noticed his ASL was perfect with his friend. It always felt weird living with someone who didn't want me around. My mom and Tom believed we'd blended eventually. I think there was some fight when Cole turned 17 and my mom and Tom wanted to go away for a weekend. I remember everyone looked so tense one morning, and I was told I'd be going to stay with my grandparents for the weekend since it wasn't a great idea to leave me home alone when I couldn't hear if something was wrong. My assumption is they wanted Cole to keep an eye on me and make sure I was okay, and he let them know he really didn't care what happened to me. Cole and I haven't seen each other since he moved out. My mom has asked a few times if we've met up or whatever, and I'm always honest and say no. She finally asked me 2 or 3 weeks ago if things were good between Cole and me, and I told her she had to have picked up on the fact he never wanted us around and wasn't interested in being good between him and me. She said she really believed that had changed once we got closer, and she brought up how he took ASL more seriously. I told her it was clearly for his friend, not me. She was clearly shocked, but brought it up again over the weekend, and she told me she thought I was very naive to think Cole didn't learn ASL for both, and that him being resistant at first didn't mean he didn't grow to love me. I told her she was the naive one to expect him to magically change out of nowhere. I told her if she wanted to be married to Tom that badly, it's fine. But she should accept it wasn't so perfect for me, and her claiming I'm naive about Cole shows how much she wants to overlook. Mom was not cool with what I said to her. She told me I didn't need to hurt her feelings. Am I the asshole? Comments from netizens. Comment 1. I cannot stand wishful thinking by parents who refuse to accept the evidence right in front of their eyes. Never mind the direct words of their children. You told her the truth. It's her problem if her feelings are hurt. That's just her deflecting her guilt about the whole situation back onto you. Not the asshole. Replay 1. She had a child with a disability. She needs to take her head out of her behind and focus on listening to OP. Imagine the things Cole could have done to OP behind their back. It's a good thing Cole was honest about not wanting to be around OP rather than putting OP in danger. Replay 2. How did OP's family not notice Cole does not interact with her? They can hear and see, for grief's sake. Ignoring what you can see is not anyone else's failing. OP's mom needs to fix that crap. Comment 2. It's sad how so many parents think that when they remarry, the kids from both partners are going to magically become best friends and act like most brothers and sisters. My mom has, so far, been married 4 times, and there are former stepbrothers and sisters I can't even remember their names, let alone be friends with. Live your life. Let your mom think whatever she needs to so she can feel better about her decisions. You're definitely not the asshole. Replay 1. As a parent to a now grown blended family, I think it's mostly because parents try to force the issue. My son was 9. His stepbrother was also 9. 4 months between them. And stepsister was 8 when I became the step. They couldn't wait for our wedding and all participated in the ceremony, but I wasn't so naive to think everything would be perfect. The boys fought some because they shared a room and sister had a bad habit of kicking in the nads when she didn't get her way. I told them they could sort it out or I would have to do it for them. Physically assaulting a sib got them into trouble. If I had to mediate, they quickly learned that I would redirect their energy to something much less fun. Within a year, the boys had formed a bond that has lasted well into adulthood. Sister took a bit longer, but they all call each other brothers and sister and speak to each other daily. The boys remain especially close even though they only see each other monthly. I think the key is not forcing a situation that clearly isn't working. Sometimes full siblings don't get along. Replay 2. I'm closer to my stepmother than my fully biological sister. No hard feelings on either side, just we have nothing in common and outside of sharing our parents we never have. It's almost as if people have their own personalities and being genetically related, or not, has little bearing on how well you'll get along when you're grown adults who can make their own choices about who to spend time with and how much. Replay 3. I didn't even get along with my bio brother growing up. He had ODD and I was his favorite target. The expectation that you can throw a bunch of kids together, regardless of their personality or previous upbringing, and they all become a loving family is ridiculous. Honestly, the result of OP and her stepbrother living peacefully but separately under the same roof is a pretty decent end result for a blended family. Comment 3. Not the asshole. She kept trying to force this relationship, and then she directly asked you how things were between you and Cole. She shouldn't have asked if she didn't want a real answer. She's the one who brought it up again and made it an issue. She's the one who called you naive in your interpretation. You were justified in calling her naive right back. She feels guilty and wants you to tell her everything was great with Cole, but it wasn't. She should have left it alone and not pushed you for answers if she didn't want the truth. Comment 4. Not the asshole. Quite frankly, I think it's extremely insulting that your mother has spent the past decade-ish with her head in the sand regarding your step-brother and his behavior. She cannot seriously claim she never noticed him either ignoring you, excluding you or signing poorly to you. I have to assume she is as fluent in ASL as you are. If you noticed that he had no trouble signing with his friend, but wouldn't sign properly with you, you cannot tell me your mother didn't at least notice his continued subpar signing with you. Also, it's interesting that she keeps asking about the two of you hanging out, despite the obvious lack of a relationship. And I would ask her if she is asking your step-brother the same question. Or if your stepdad is asking him, and if not, why is it you who is being harassed about the relationship? Why are you expected to put an effort with someone who clearly doesn't care about you, but he can just do nothing and it's all hunky-dory? I tend to think your mum just wanted to live in Delulu land that everything was okay between the two of you, because she doesn't want to live with the fact that she put her romantic relationship with your stepdad above making sure you were living in a household with people who would treat you with respect. That is something she is going to have to live with, and it is not on you to make her feel better. Comment 5. Not the asshole. Your mother seems to think that dragging Cole to classes was enough of a solution, but she never actually dealt with the underlying problem, which was that he wasn't looking to bond with a new brother. People often seem to think all children will magically like each other because that is what suits them, and they forget that their children have their own feelings and often aren't too thrilled about being dragged into a new life with strangers. Unfortunately, her unwillingness to face reality meant that Cole took his feelings out on you, the only person who was not actually to blame. It must have been really hurtful for you, and I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Sometimes even when people get older they remain locked in whatever role they took as a child. Cole doesn't seem to have been able to break out of resentful child mode. It's up to you whether you think there's any point in having a grown-up conversation with him and seeing whether you could get him to accept that you have never been the person to blame and that the two of you could at least be civil and maybe even friendly towards each other on the occasions when you have to meet. If that's not going to work, then you should probably tell your mother to sit down with him and have the conversation she should have had a long time ago. One where she listens to him and actually hears how he really feels. It seems she has only just had that conversation with you, very late in the day, and she doesn't seem very good at listening to what you have to say without pushing her own feelings in front of reality. It's a huge shame that she didn't do this years ago, And you have suffered because she didn't, and I think it's fair enough to point that out. The situation is where it is because your parents didn't want to recognize and deal with the truth. Story 2. Am I the asshole for not telling my parents I'm pregnant because they'll make me keep it? I, 15F, have been dating my boyfriend, 16M, for almost a year. We were careful, but accidents happen, and I found out a few weeks ago that I'm pregnant. When I first saw the positive test, I was terrified. My parents are very conservative and have always been vocal about their views on teenage pregnancy and abortion. They believe it's a sin and that any child conceived should be kept, no matter what. I know that if I tell my parents, they will force me to keep the baby and raise it, despite me still being a child myself. I'm terrified of how my life will change if that happens. I love my boyfriend, but we are both so young and not ready to be parents. We've discussed it and agree that an abortion is the best option for us right now, so we started saving up money to get one without my parents knowing. The only person I've confided in is my boyfriend. We are trying to handle everything ourselves, which is really stressful. Every day, I feel the weight of the secret growing heavier. My parents have no idea what's going on, and every time they talk about our future or make plans, it feels like I'm living a lie. In addition to the fear and stress, I've been dealing with depression since finding out. I feel overwhelmed, trapped, and alone. I cry myself to sleep most nights, and it's getting harder to keep up with my schoolwork and daily life. My boyfriend tries to support me, but he's also scared and stressed out. We both feel so lost. I know my parents would be devastated if they found out later, and I'm scared of their reaction. But I feel like keeping this secret and taking care of it myself is my only option. If they found out after the fact, they would be furious, but at least I wouldn't be trapped in a situation that I know I can't handle. So, am I the asshole for not telling my parents about my pregnancy and planning to get an abortion without their knowledge? Comments from netizens. Comment 1. I was in a similar situation when I was 18. Didn't tell my parents, had the abortion. I'm 56 now and I never, ever regretted having said abortion. Replay 1. I think the rate of regret is only like 2% of people, but even among those many still believe they did the right thing. Abortion is, ironically enough, one of the least regretted medical procedures. It can be mentally painful at first, but almost 100% of patients feel relief rather quickly and in the long run. Comment 2. Now, you are not the asshole for not telling your parents. You're on the right path. Though not as young as you, I got pregnant at 19 and got an abortion without telling my parents. I still lived in their house. They don't know to this day, almost 10 years later. It happens. If necessary, find an adult you trust to talk about this. And go find out how to schedule an abortion soon and what method, because you might need to stay in the clinic during the day or even overnight. Comment 3. Not the asshole. It would completely change the trajectory of your life. Sure, everything of this dimension would, and some consequences could be positive, but there is a great risk. However, there is a certain window to get an abortion. Don't waste your time. Research organizations that may help you financially. If you can entrust your secret to an adult who might help you, do that. Comment 4. Depending on how far along you are, there are several sites that will mail you abortion pills after an online consultation. AidAccess.org is $150, I believe, and they do offer funding help. But you have to be less than 13 weeks along, I believe. So act quickly. The longer this goes on, access becomes more difficult. Planned Parenthood can often help with the funding issue if you want to go in person and have one near you. If you do, just go in and talk to them regardless of how much money you have and explain the situation. They will likely have some way to assist you. Comment 5. Not the asshole. You're absolutely not an asshole at all. I'd do your best to have it done as soon as possible. I'd call the place you're planning to go to see if they might charge patients on a sliding scale based on your current income, just yours, not your parents'. If so, it may cost less than you think. If you have options and more than one office to go to in your area, I'd call them all to see who has sliding scale fees. Time is of the essence, as sometimes women don't realize how far along they are, and it can end up being too late for an abortion depending on local laws where you are. Though even if one office may say it's too late, I'd look and see if you can find another office that has a different cutoff. When you fill out paperwork at the office, make sure to read everything 109% so that you are checking the right boxes. Most new patient paperwork asks if they can call you, your home, text or email, as well as the names of people they can share your medical information with. Ask for help filling it out if you're uncertain about anything. I'd make a point to check off that the office can only speak to you with medical information and no one else, that they can't mail anything to your home and your preferred form of contact. You can ask them if they can include in your records that you only consent to you contacting them and they can't contact you. As there are people you don't want to share this with, I'd be mindful of how much access they have or could have with your phone, both calls and text messages and emails. Not only communications with the medical office but also conversations you have with your boyfriend. You may think they aren't tech savvy, but you never know what they might be able to view, especially if they ask someone for help. Try not to be too hard on yourself. The changing hormones in your body from the pregnancy can definitely cause you to feel more depressed. After you have the procedure, those hormones in your body will shift again and may increase feelings of depression, similar to how some women deal with postpartum depression. I'd ask at the doctor's office or clinic you go to if they may have any recommendations of someone you could talk with afterwards, or if they might offer that service in their office. All the best to you.